Proud Boys leader yells racist slurs before attacking black woman. Uh, so let's see here. This is so despicable. I don't even think I can read this stuff. A chapter leader in the far-right Proud Boys extremist gang was charged with assault Sunday in Akron, Ohio, after he was recorded shouting racial epithets at a black woman and then sucker punching her in the face. Wow, how about that? What do you think of a man attacking a woman? Isn't that something, you know? Gee, what kind of man is that? A man police identified as Andrew Walls, 26, was caught on video outside a bar in the early hours of Sunday, stumbling and scuffling with other patrons while spewing a torrent of racial slurs. His victim, 23-year-old Cameron Morgan, was passing by with a friend when she heard Walls and others screaming effing N. So it's not like she was in a confrontation with him, you know? And like to say he was drunk and she got into a dispute with him. No, she just happened to be walking by. And she later told her father, she said, we were like, you can't say that. That's not okay. She told her dad, local teacher and former sports writer David Lee Morgan Jr., who recorded the conversation and provided a transcript to the Huffington Post. Video taken by Cameron Morgan's friend shows what happened next. So she said she was the only black person. Yeah. She was the only black person around. So obviously the friend she's with is more than likely not black. Probably white. Okay. Let's see if I can play this.
I know. He's a cop, apparently.
Yeah, nigger bitch, shut your mouth.
Whoa! Got her lips split open. Wow, just like that. He attacked this woman. My God. Isn't that something? Replies. Let's see. Never found out who he is. Wow. He just punched a girl like that. 23 years old. My goodness. And she's walking by and he's using racial slurs. Damn. You see him punching her. Okay. So let's see. There's that article right here. Walls kept going after the recording ended and dragged Cameron. This is the guy, Walls. Dragged Cameron into the street by her hair, her father said. She was shaken up, he said, and left the scene without initially calling police. But once the video began to make the rounds on social media Sunday, activists quickly identified the assailant as Walls. They also unearthed a previous story about him in the local Akron Beacon Journal, which identified him as the vice president of the Akron Canton chapter of the Proud Boys. How proud can you be? Sucker punching a woman in her face. Though Walls wasn't wearing his Proud Boys uniform, a black and yellow Fred Perry polo, during the assault, his membership and the gang suggest a predisposition for violence and bigotry. And these are the people. These are the people who support Donald Trump. You know, yeah, and he has no issue with that. My friends, we are in serious trouble if Donald Trump were to run in 2024, another 2 years, and become president of the United States of America again, because he emboldened a whole bunch of racists in America. There are a number of people who had never voted before in their life. Not that they were too young to vote. Not like they were 17 years old, 16 years. No, that's not the case. They were old enough to vote, but they just never voted. Never voted in their life. Never voted in their life. And then when Donald Trump came out, that's when they voted. Yeah. They had no intention to be involved in civics and participating in doing any civic duty. Nope. It just didn't faze them. But when Trump came on the scene, oh wow, they wanted to get him in office because they realized that he's a racist. That's why, and he emboldens them. You know, when he came down those steps in New York at Trump Tower, this was back in 2015, to announce that he's running, the first thing he did was attack Mexicans. That Mexico is sending, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you or me or what have you. They're sending rapists, drug addicts. They're sending this. You know. And I saw an article, I think it was Saturday, about a Chinese man who, I think he's an actor, and he was attacked over there in Lower Manhattan, right near Chinatown. And a Chinese person wrote a comment, and he was like, well, you know, he said that he gave Trump a chance and so forth, that he believed that he can make a difference or what have you. But I had an argument, well, I had a few arguments, but one of my points was removed. Yahoo removed it, you see. But the whole idea was this. See, if you look at drugs like amphetamines, for example, methamphetamine, that comes through the mail, right? Because, you know, a lot of stuff comes through the mail. United States Postal Service. That they don't catch everything. And methamphetamine is one of those drugs that come out of China. You know? Yeah. You can buy from China. And China has no problem, as you know, and this is authoritarian or what have you, or totalitarian state with cameras all over, you know, they could check facial features and so forth. They can know who's who. Yeah, they can know who's who, you know, whereas the average American may say, oh, wow, I may have a hard time telling the difference between this Chinese guy, that Chinese guy. No, in China, no, they have all these different cameras that when you're walking down the street, they check you out, you see. So my point is, all this stuff, all these drugs or what have you, being produced in China, and it comes to America, and China does nothing about it. You know why? Because China doesn't care. Because as far as China is concerned, you can destroy the American people with drugs. They don't care. Because if you go back to your high school history, you learn about the Opium Wars. When they had, when like the British, the French and so forth, they tried to force opium on China, and they got into wars over that, because to make a long story short, China didn't really engage in fair trade practices. Sound familiar? Same thing is going on now, right? That Donald Trump was complaining about China is unfair. Well, you go back to the 19th century, back in the 1800s, mid 1800s. The Chinese used to sell like silk, China ware, all kinds of stuff to Europe. So ships would be laden up, and they would deliver a lot of goods, you know. So China would sell all that stuff, and they would make a lot of money, I guess, in gold back then, you know. And the ships leaving Europe would be like empty. You see, now the way it was, I used to work at the pier years ago down here in Brooklyn, and the ships would come in also at Holland Hook in Staten Island. And the ships, they had their like American president ships, you know, like Madison or what have you, the different names of some president. The American line, American president line. And they would come in with a lot of stuff. However, when they go out, they will be loaded up too. They will put a lot of stuff. So that means trade is a two-way street. So when they come to the United States, you see they take a lot of containers off, and then they'll have containers waiting to go back on onto that ship. So that means it was a two-way street. So they dropping stuff off, and then they put in containers on the ships also. But that's not how it was with China. China was like, okay, they sell to the Europeans, and the ships were coming back empty to China because China wasn't interested in the trade. So what the Europeans did back in those days is say, well, okay, since you don't want to buy from us, we're going to sell you opium. And I think people know what opium is. And opium is very addictive. And of course, back then, the Qing dynasty said, no way, we're not going to have, you forcing us to buy opium. No, that's not going to happen. Well, it did. And they engaged in wars. And they battled China. Yeah. They forced battles onto China. So that's why you had like about maybe 2 or so different opium wars under the Qing dynasty. And modern day China right now, they call it the century of humiliation. That's the term they use. Century of humiliation. The way China was forced they had to lease like territories like Hong Kong, for example, to the British, Macau to the Portuguese. Even the Germans had ports in the far eastern part of China. The Germans had. Also, the Japanese were involved also back then. You know, so they took advantage of China, but China had its history of being unfair in trade negotiation. But at the same time, that's no reason to force opium on people. So that was the history there. And eventually, the communists were the ones who eventually got rid of this. And they didn't have, like in America, how you have like treatment places, you know, people go to, like if you're addicted in drugs or what have you. And I remember when I was in high school, and that was a long time ago. And I remember I had to do a paper, and I went to one of these like treatment facilities where people actually live there, and there were like some young people there too. and I had to do the report. No, this wasn't high school. This was college. This was a college report I had to do. Yeah, college report, and I went over there, and you have people there who are addicted or what have you. Now, the reason I'm saying this because what happened when the communists took over, they didn't have a treatment. They didn't have something like what we have here in America. You saw them, and this is no joke. They had video. The way they dealt with people who were addicted to drugs, they had them come in the public. This is what they did. In the public, the person kneel and they put a bullet to the back of the head. That's how China dealt with drug addiction. A bullet to the back of the head. Yep. No like Phoenix House or anything like that, like what we got now with people who are hooked on heroin and so forth, and they go to a place where they can live for a while to get off drug addiction. No, nothing like that. They just put a bullet to the back of the head. And that was with the opium addiction. And that goes all the way back from the Opium Wars. So that was like nearly like 100 years later. People in China were still using opium. Still addicted. That's how bad those drugs are. You see? Yeah. So, here we are. So the Proud Boys, these are the people who worship Donald Trump. These are some of the people who were in the Capitol. January 6, 2021. With the violence and so forth. And they try to reach him, but I guess no comment. The Walls chapter didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Yeah. And Morgan said his daughter went to an urgent care clinic and was treated for concussion after she saw stars and blacked out. Her face swelled up temporarily to the point where she couldn't move her jaw. She couldn't really open up her mouth to eat, he said. Walls was charged with possessing a firearm while intoxicated and assault, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. The severity of Cameron's injuries may lead to his assault charge being upgraded to a felony, the Akron Beacon Journal reports. Akron police are also considering an added ethnic intimidation charge. I guess they don't have any hate crime charges in the state of Ohio. David Morgan said the revelation of all Proud Boys affiliation changed everything for him. He said he was aware of the gang and the national tour of political violence they had been on since the founding in 2016. Yeah, 2016. Who was president? Who was running for office then, right? In that year, 2016. But he never thought it would hit home until today. This changes a lot for me in the sense that I want to get involved now, he said. This happening was time for me to wake the hell up. And I hate that my daughter had to suffer that for me to wake the hell up. That's what the father said. Well, that sure woke him up all right. You know, unfortunately, he woke up. Punching his daughter in the face like that. That's really terrible. A man hitting a woman like that. That's not right.